Can we finish that conversation?
This is a show called Cross Politic that I think we should do together.
Me too. Hey, y'all. Welcome to Cross Politic on the Fight Laugh Feast Network. I love being on my own mic. This is Pastor Toby, Chalk Knox. I'm the water boy. It is good to be with you this Friday evening. Wrap up Friday.
That's right. Folks, our upcoming Fight Laugh Feast conference is just 4 months away from happening in Knoxville, Tennessee, October 6th through the 8th.
And I just got the email from George Gilder. His talk is going to be... Do we got like a drum roll or anything?
No.
Okay. Seemingly and sanctified sex.
Message.
All right.
So the charge to George we gave him was, we want you to take your suicide sex book,
sexual suicide,
your knowledge and power book, and your life after Google book, and put it all in one talk. And George can do it.
45
and that's
minutes.
the topic, and that's the
title. He wrote speeches for Ronald Reagan.
Yeah.
He can do it. Remember, the theme of the conference is lies, propaganda, storytelling, and the serrated edge. In addition to George Gilder, Jared Longshore is going to be there.
Yes.
Talking about serrated
children.
Serrated
quiver. Serrated quiver.
I was going to say, there was a different word we picked. Yeah. Pastor Doug Wilson's going to be there.
Yeah.
Dr. Ben Merkel. Pastor Toby.
Yes.
You're going to be there?
He's going to be there. I'm going to go. I'm just going for that. We can't say yet, but there's also going to be some other things happening.
We got a lot. There's actually a lot going. I'm trying to land here.
We're gonna announce it soon.
We're gonna land it.
Don't miss our awesome vendors, meeting new friends, probably even new friends that live around you that you've never met before. We hear this every year. Like, I just met so and so. He lives 30 minutes away.
I had no idea.
And I didn't even know.
Yeah.
And stuff for the kids too, like jumpy castles and accidental infant baptisms.
Accidental on your behalf, maybe. Not on ours.
We're trying to get people to come. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah.
Also, did you know you can save money by signing up for a club membership? So go to fightlaughfeast.com, sign up for a club membership, and then register for the conference and get that $100 off the club discount. We can't wait to fellowship, sing psalms, and celebrate God's goodness in Knoxville, October 6th through the 8th.
Speaking of lies, propaganda, storytelling, serrated edge.
Yeah.
We need a pagan to tell the church to man up.
No, we don't.
No, we do.
No, we don't.
Our young people face a demoralization that is perhaps unparalleled. The Christian church is there to remind people, young men included, and perhaps even first and foremost, that they have a woman to find, a garden to walk in, a family to nurture, an ark to build, a land to conquer, a ladder to heaven to build, and the utter terrible catastrophe of life to face stalwartly in truth, devoted to love, and without fear. Invite the young men back. Say literally to those young men, you are welcome here. We want to call you to the highest purpose of your life. We want your time and energy and effort and your will and your goodwill. We want to work with you to make things better, to produce life more abundant for you and for your wife and children and for your community and your country and the world. Put up a billboard. Say, young men are welcome here. And most importantly, what they can do. Your churches, for God's sake, quit fighting for social justice. Quit saving the bloody planet. Attend to some souls. That's what you're supposed to do. Do it now, before it's too late.
So that was Jordan Peterson.
He's like preaching a sermon.
He released a video this past week calling the church to invite men back.
Right.
And to fight, woke culture, to fight CRT, to fight kind of what he says are the bigger problems.
I'm confused, though. I also just heard him talking to Dave Rubin.
Hold on.
Speaking of which, it's funny that you should bring that up.
Are we going to get there? Let's just go right there.
He said marry a woman.
Toby,
he said marry a woman.
We got a video for you.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
You made me a video?
Boys are hectored for their toy preferences, which often include toy weapons such as guns, and their more boisterous playing style, as boys require active, rough and tumble play.
When I was first sort of coming out or coming to grips with myself, I actually liked guys that were kind of flamboyant because to me it was like, oh, they're so who they are.
And it is precisely those young men who are deeply conscientious, capable of guilt and regret, who have come to believe in pain that every deep impulse that moves them out into the world for the adventure of their life, even that impulse drawing them to women. I talked a lot about the role of family in people's lives. And at that point, you really hadn't been considering children, not seriously, although your partner, your husband, is nothing but the manifestation of a spirit that is essentially satanic in nature. Children who are breastfed do better.
Yep.
I believe that 1 year of breastfeeding is equivalent to, I think breastfed kids have a 5-point IQ advantage, and 1 point IQ is worth 1 year of education.
I have 2 freezers in my garage, 2 industrial freezers full of breast milk.
This is not only wrong theologically, morally, psychologically, practically, and scientifically. It is literally anti-true. The Christian church is there to remind people, young men included, that they have a woman to find.
We wanted to find a girl who obviously was physically healthy, most importantly, and we thought we could take some of my sister's
Not
eggs.
like that.
She's a mother.
That's
now
not
she's
what he
actually pregnant
means.
with her third. But that we could get her eggs, and then we would take David's
not her
from, and then
eggs.
we would have 2 children from that.
No.
After a long time of talking about
No,
a year
stop
debating
nodding.
that back
Stop
and forth
nodding.
and going through all that, there were a lot of ethical and moral issues.
Yeah,
and
yeah.
my sister,
Ethical
A
issues.
family to nurture.
you know David pretty well, and we've been out to dinner with Tammy many times.
Yeah.
And you know him. He is incredibly warm and nurturing and loving and deeply cares about all those things. And I'm telling you, he is reading about skin-to-skin contact every day.
Invite the young men back. Say, literally, to those young men, you are welcome here.
What was the
Skin to
gay
skin.
rights movement for in the 70s in New York City and Stonewall and all of those things? It was these people just wanted, they wanted to be able to get married. That was part of it. But it was also that they wanted to be able to go to a bar that wasn't underground, that wasn't hidden, that wasn't, this
They wanna be
seedy
welcome.
thing. But that's what they had to do because they were getting raided by the police. And this was going on, obviously, in other countries, and it was going on for decades before that.
If no one else wants what you have to offer, we do. We want to call you to the highest purpose of your life. We want your time and energy and effort and your will and your goodwill. We want to work with you to make things better, to produce life more abundant for you and for your wife and children and for your community and your country and the world.
Had the world not shifted to be a little bit kinder, had I not maybe been on tour with you and come to some of these realizations or found someone in the world that I wanted to put their needs above my own, that I could have been left to a life that would have been sort of purely narcissistic or self-destructive or anything.
Do it now, before it's too late. The hour is nigh. Good to see you, Dave.
That was our producer, Carter, cut that.
Oh my
That was
goodness.
such
Carter,
a great
you deserve
cut.
a raise.
Yeah.
Do it.
That was so
now,
good.
before it's too late.
So
Get those eggs.
So
Get the breast milk in the freezer.
get it. That's
Now.
the message.
Put a big sign up.
Billboard.
Your eggs
In
are
the-
welcome here.
Even if you stole them, I bought them from a woman.
oh man, that's so good. So just for our audio listeners,
my
because they couldn't
gracious.
see all the video there.
So you have to get
What?
the app. Yeah.
What you got to download. You got
It's
to
a
watch this
mashup.
mashup. But it was basically what we did is we took the mashup of Jordan Peterson
Oh my gracious.
and his exhortation to the church or his charge to the church,
Yeah,
and then we
for young
mashed
men.
that up with his interview, with Jordan Peterson's interview with Gay Rubin.
Rubin.
And that's what happened.
Yeah.
So-
But he wasn't done talking to Christians. I was surprised because this morning I was like, okay, we're going to cut this up. We're going to chop it up. And as soon as I go to YouTube, I
that's
saw one to Muslims.
It has been so heartening to see that my biblical lectures, for example, attracted a large Muslim audience. And all this is lovely to see in the aftermath of the extraordinary Abraham Accords, which have laid out the possibility
Abraham
for
Accords?
peace between all the people of the book. It is time for those of you in the Muslim world to stop fighting among yourselves, you Shiites and Sunnis, and also time to stop regarding the Christians and even more specifically, the Jews as your enemies.
Well, I
the
guess-
best place to find Satan is within If you think the true enemy is in someone else's heart, then you haven't thought nearly long enough about the darkness within. And I should also point out that it is not the individual carriers of the woke, politically correct, degenerate, neo-Marxist ideas that should be regarded as the enemy either. Muslims, reach across the sectarian divide. Shiites, find a Sunni pen pal. Communicate with someone on the other side. Sunnis, do the same. Maybe reach out to a Christian or even, heaven forbid, a Jew, because perhaps it is time for those who purport to be followers of God to act like it and to be convincing in those actions. Thank you, all my Muslim listeners, watchers, and readers, for your kind attention and patience. I wish you well as you strive to become the light in the world that your faith truly demands. Let's see if we can unite as people of the book and negotiate our way toward the paradise that we might truly and jointly attain.
So
Wow.
So the Christian,
How many virgins?
His charge to the Christian church got, I think, like 800,000 views.
Yeah.
And this video,
1.6,
1.6, almost double.
Yeah.
And so there's a lot of kind of, I think, sub issues going on here. And I wanted to bring in our friend James Raymond. He was he's been on the show before. We've had him on the show before. He was born in England, lives in Seattle now, has 5 kids. In 2012, James has been building relationships with Muslims in Seattle and around the world because of his ministry. He founded the Al-Maida Initiative, a Christian nonprofit that equips the church to understand and communicate better with Muslims on a range of religious, political, and worldview issues. James, thank you for coming on Cross Politic.
Hey, thank you for having me again.
So you got to hear the video. What was your kind of initial response to Jordan Peterson, specifically kind of charging the Muslim world to, come together, to rally together to fight, I guess, some bigger issues like CRT and so forth?
Yeah, so there's things I liked about it and things that I think were misses. And the fundamental issue in this video, I think, is that he is taking the sort of framework interpretation of Christianity that he has come to understand. And he's kind of like reading that into the Muslim world. And so when he says something like the greatest enemy is within, right? That's the best place to find Satan. That's true from a biblical perspective. Not that Satan doesn't really exist, but that we are supposed to start with ourselves, right? In Islam, there's this doctrine called the fitra, and the fitra is this idea that everyone is born good, and then it's external influences that shape you into something bad or something that's better. So it's not that there's no concept of inner struggle in Islam. It's that this beginning of inner struggle starts with you making sure that you have the best influences around you. That's one thing. So in Orthodox Islam, the struggle for the world doesn't actually begin like inside.
Right.
It actually starts with making sure that bad things outside don't get in. So then he goes to talk about the Sunni and Shia stuff and how those divisions need to end. But here's the thing. He tends to have a framework approach to the Bible, which we all hope and pray is getting more literal. But he's still he's still operating as this Christianity is this sort of psychological, inspirational framework before it's a literal truth.
Yeah.
And if you think of religion in a psychological framework type way, then of course, the Shia framework, the Sunni framework should just be able to come together and strive towards the same thing.
Right.
But if you're actually looking at it from Muhammad literally set a successor, or we're literally supposed to trust this early community as the blueprint of humankind, then you can't simply just agree. You can't just say, oh yeah, this stuff doesn't really matter at all. So his worldview is like, whatever the differences are, they don't really matter. But he isn't used to swimming in their kind of worldview, whereas we as Bible-believing Christians can kind of maybe get that a little more. And so he's going to see a solution which isn't really viable because of their existing worldview. And then finally, what he gives is a good idea. I think it's a great idea for people to reach out to somebody who they disagree with and have a conversation with them. But I also am skeptical of how much it's going to work, because the ability to be reasonable and charitable to people you disagree with is fundamentally a fruit of the gospel.
Right.
So
Right.
what Jordan Peterson is trying to do is disciple the nations without evangelism.
That's
Wow.
right.
And it won't work.
That's exactly right.
Without the gospel.
Without the gospel.
Yeah.
What about his comments about the Jews? I mean, to me, that was like the most. I mean, there's such a hatred of the Jews from Muslims, and there's thousands, and there's 1,000 years of history of divide there.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be careful with that. So I was in Abu Dhabi about 3 months ago, and there were so many Israelis there. So it's always kind of up and down a bit, the relationship between Muslims and the Jewish world, and there's certainly a lot of anti-Semitic conspiracy theories out there.
Yeah,
but there's a lot of middle ground as well. Right. Like generally with the Gulf nations, there's this dynamic of they're outraged by what's happening between Israel and Palestine as a symbolic thing. But then it's like, hey, you want to let in 100,000 Palestinians to Saudi Arabia? And it's like, are you crazy? Look at what they're doing to those poor Jews.
Oh, wow. Wow.
So it's a little more complicated than people think it is.
Interesting.
So there's like ethnic divides, you're saying, in addition to the religious divides.
Yeah, it's so complicated.
And
politics, there's religion.
Yeah.
There's tribalism. There's everything in there.
And go ahead, James.
Yeah, there's everything in that. So there's plenty of anti-Semitism in the Muslim world. But there's also things change quickly, and things are changing quickly right now. And you find like a weird amount of pro-Israel like Gulf Arabs right now.
James, thanks for coming on, man. We'll have to have you back on and talk a little bit more about this. I have a feeling this is going to develop much larger than it currently is right now. Really appreciate you, James.
Appreciate your time, man.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys.
Yep.
Bye-bye. Home. It's where you build your legacy, where traditions are started, seeds are planted, meals are shared, and stories are told. Home is where you prepare to go out into the world. Finding the home that's perfect for your family is a big job. Story Real Estate is Moscow, Idaho's top real estate team. They give people real estate advice all over the country: family homes, investments, land, new construction, or commercial. They know real estate. If you thought about a move to Moscow or anywhere in the country, reach out to get connected with a Story Real Estate agent. Wherever you're going, they can help guide you home. Visit storyrealestate.com today.
You know, Pastor, I was thinking, we talked about this, almost talked about it before the show. We had to stop ourselves. But the clip between Jordan Peterson and Dave Rubin, to me, disqualifies his comments to Christians. Disqualifies him, because whatever Christianity he's talking about that he wants, or the world that he's talking about for Christians, includes Dave Rubin without repentance.
Yeah, that's
right. That's the new conservative. That's the new. And so there's
although there's a sense in which, like, I mean, this is how. So I agree,
right?
But there's also a sense in which what he thinks isn't necessarily what God's doing.
Sure.
So
I agree.
So God is at work, and I mean, if he can make donkeys talk.
Of course.
Then,
that's how
then he can use somebody very, very intelligent who is very, very wrong in some really key areas to encourage churches to welcome young men, and to encourage a lot of young men to go to church.
Yeah.
And where they actually will hear the gospel, even if initially it's a social gospel, a psychological gospel, whatever, a humanistic gospel, which is I think what he's using right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this is like we were just reading in Kings, where we have the prophet who goes to the prophet who just went to Jeroboam, and the prophet is leaving, and then he tells him a lie that he says, "Hey, God told me to tell you to come eat with me." Yeah. And the guy died because God had told him what he should have did. Yeah. And so it's possible. And then the prophet who lied gets a real word from God. He's like, uh-oh, you in trouble. Because God told you not to listen to me. You're like, what is going on here? So I look at it and I can be like, okay, so guys like this, are great at analyzing the situation.
Right.
They're great at even seeing kind of the problems where things are going. They're great at analyzing, but they don't have the answers at the end of the day.
Right.
None that bring true human flourishing, because if you follow down the road of humanism, even though it has some of the elements of
truth
and nature in it,
Right.
you don't get righteousness out of
Right.
it.
No.
You get worse. You get totalitarianism.
Right.
It's just another version of it.
Right.
And so that's what I want to be careful of. But it disqualifies.
Well, I would say, nature apart from Christ is fallen. Right.
Yeah.
We're fallen creatures. And
Exactly.
So now, as nature truly understood in Christ,
Right.
gets you flourishing.
Right.
And that's the distinction. But without Christ,
Well, see,
you're going to get totalitarianism.
was it John Adams that said our Constitution is made for
Yeah,
a moral people?
moral,
Yeah.
religious people.
And so, where is the moral values that he's
Yeah.
bringing to the table? If you have homosexuality a part of that, then you can't even follow the
because
Constitution.
I think what he would say, though, is that and I think has a point, he is far more moral and religious than most modern secularists. So compared to the secularists,
he's a cooler part of hell.
He's I would call him he's a deist.
Sure, I get it.
Right,
Yeah.
There's sort of this respect for religion.
Yeah.
There's a God. He's kind of disconnected, whatever.
Yeah.
And that I think it's closer to the truth in one sense.
Yeah.
And you're gonna see reality better, but you're not any closer to God in terms of the infinite chasm of heaven and hell.
Here's what I think is happening politically.
Yeah.
Is you have a conservative Republican political party has left Christ.
Yep.
So there's this deistic kind of conservatism
That
that
feels
we're in
right,
now.
right.
And so that's why you're kind of seeing this merge of conservatism and
Yeah.
classical liberalism, which is what Jordan Peterson, Dave Rubin, they had all
Right,
kinds of
right,
sun off to that.
right.
And you're getting this new conservatism, not
That's
founded
right.
off Christ.
And they know that. They're saying that loud and
Right.
clear.
And it's a very pragmatic kind of conservatism, or if you can call it that they're all coming together about what they're against.
Right.
That's what's driving them. We're against CRT. We're against grooming. We're against all this stuff.
Well,
and that's why you get Gay Rubin.
Well, they're not just coming together against what they're against too. I mean, Jordan Peterson is trying to set forth we need men.
Yeah.
We need to have
Yeah,
families.
right.
They
And-
are saying that these are foundations to society.
they're awesome force.
And Gay
Yeah.
Rubin will even say there's a difference between men
That's
and
right.
women, male and female.
Yeah.
They're just
Which is why he's got
recreating-
breast milk in his freezer.
Yeah, right.
They're recreating creation. You know,
Right.
the other thing I want to point out really quick, and I'll
Yeah.
let you go, Pastor. You have to pay attention to the way that he communicated to the Muslims and to the Christians.
Yeah.
Notice he did not go for the Muslims to take over masculinity and families and manhood.
It's true. He gave
Notice
he gave
that was
to church.
absent. He came after the church
He
for
gave
that.
the church
Why?
right.
There's a reason for that. He's not doing that without some sort of deep reason
Church
for
is
that.
effeminate.
Why is he going after the church? No, I don't think it's just that.
I was
Muslims get the men.
But I was going to say, but I think he sees problems in
That's
Islam.
exactly right.
I think he sees more of the truth in Christianity.
I think that's right.
And
I think that's exactly
he
right.
sees that Muslims turn men angry and they turn into terrorists.
Yeah.
All right, it's time for the wrap up.
Yeah.
Just
Friday wrap up.
That was quick.
cool it.
Friday wrap up.
Okay. On Monday, we covered Kamala Harris's Face the Nation appearance, lamenting the overturning of the Dred Scott decision. Since that had been settled constitutional law, and now everything is completely up for grabs. Slave masters are no longer in complete control of their property
That's not
anymore.
what happened. That's not what happened, Toby.
No, it is.
It was abortion.
I was listening. I heard it. Governor Northam of Virginia did his best
Blackface.
Brave Sir
Oh.
Robin impression.
Okay.
By boldly telling CNN that he is now prepared to do exactly what the Supreme Court says whenever they say it. Only allow hunting of babies until 15 weeks.
Oh.
Remember Brave Sir Robin?
Bravely bold Sir Robin rode forth from Camelot. He was not afraid to die. Oh, brave Sir Robin. He was not at all afraid to be killed in nasty ways. Brave, 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 brave Sir Robin. He was not in the least bit scared to be mashed into a pulp, or to have his eyes gouged out and his elbows broken, to have his kneecap split and his body burned away, and his limbs all hacked and mangled. Brave Sir Robin. His head smashed in and his heart cut out and his liver removed and his bowels unplugged and his nostrils raped and his bottom burnt off and his penis.
That's enough music for now, lads.
Brave Sir Robin ran away. Bravely ran away, away.
I didn't.
When danger reared its ugly head, he bravely turned his tail and fled. Yet brave Sir Robin turned about
I
and
didn't.
gallantly he chickened out.
I don't know if you had a slip there. It was Governor, not Northam, but Youngkin.
Youngkin.
I
Yeah,
did.
You said Northam.
Yeah, I did.
It's okay.
Blackface Northam, Youngkin. I'm not really sure exactly what the difference is.
We don't know which one's the Democrat.
On Tuesday, we talked with Dr. Rod's story about the scam of calling abortion women's
So
health
good.
Yeah.
or trying to create a need for abortion in cases when a woman's health is threatened. Not only does abortion take millions of women's lives in killing the unborn babies, but the fact of the matter is abortion always leaves scars, physical, emotional, and spiritual.
Yeah.
And in those very rare instances when a baby implants in a place where it cannot survive and directly threatens the life of the mother, a procedure done to move the baby is not at all the same thing as intentionally killing it. Wednesday was Beer and Psalms with Senator Hawley trying to pin down the Berkeley professor on exactly what kind of human beings get pregnant and have babies. And she certainly wasn't sure if unborn babies have any value at all. At the very least, it wasn't a very interesting question to her.
That's right.
The Psalm of the day was Psalm 115, and we talked about how idols always deform their worshipers. You become like what you worship. Idols are deaf, dumb, and blind and lame, and all who make them and serve them become like them. And this is how you know our land is full of idols. We chop up our babies in pieces. We mutilate our bodies through cutting, piercing, tattooing, and tranny surgeries and chemicals. Yesterday, we talked about the resurgence of the COVID narrative, with new reports coming out of kindergarten classrooms with maps colored red by 5-year-olds. Which means, and I quote, they said, super duper, super very, very, very awful, humongous, super huger, bad, badder, bad, huge, super, super bad, huge, very bad, because it's all whole entire red everywhere.
That's hilarious.
We also had Pastor Andrew Bartolo from Kingston, Ontario in the studio talking about how God has used the faithful resistance of many Christians, pastors, and churches, particularly in the Liberty Coalition in Canada, to grow the kingdom. We talked to Pastor Andrew backstage, that was after the show, for club members,
So good.
about what the strategy should be for pushing back against statist tyranny in Canada and everywhere. And I want to close this wrap up by simply noting that this is a glorious time to be alive.
Amen.
What a glorious time to be assigned to live. What a moment to live with this battle line drawn up so close. What a moment to be called to follow Jesus into the fray. We have our work cut out for us, but the lines are so clear. Life or death, reason or insanity, beauty or ugliness, grace or judgment, Christ or chaos. Christ died and rose again for this insanity, this rebellion, this bloodshed. And therefore, we should not be surprised by the vitriol at all, and we must not fear it in the slightest. They hated Jesus, and God raised him from the dead. We know how this story goes.
Amen. Amen.
And with that, we're going to go into the backstage with Pastor Toby and talk about how Christians should be hearing Jordan Peterson's message to Christians. What a week. Wow. If you're single, get married. If you're married, have you some kids. And if you have kids, go baptize them. Until Monday, love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and strength. Love your neighbor as yourself. Go fight, laugh, and feast. This is Cross Politics.
This is where Dave and I plan this year's company holidays.
Let's go through the list.
Easter,
Too religious.
St. Patrick's Day?
too white. Mother's Day?
Way too cisgendered.
All of your usual holidays have been canceled this year.
But we still have Karl Marx's birthday!
Need a real reason to party? Find a new job at redballoon.work.
Hi, I'm Robert Borton, CEO of Classical Conversations, the world's largest classical Christian homeschooling community. I'm launching a new podcast, Refining Rhetoric. If you like cross politics or just listen to hear what crazy stuff they're saying today, you will enjoy Refining Rhetoric. You can find us on your favorite podcast platform. I practice the 15 tools of learning by interviewing great guests, looking at current events, and talking about cryptocurrency.